Hey everybody, and welcome back to this episode of Romantasy Roundtable, a tale of Rick and Roses. This is Rick, and I'm joined by my rosebuds, my roses,
Amanda
and Kim.
You're here.
Why?
Oh, sorry.
He's been singing that song all day.
It's a great song. Great song. So we are back. We read quick. Guys.
Yeah, Kim, we recorded on Saturday. Today's Tuesday. And I was like, I'm probably going to finish tonight. And Kim was like, challenge accepted. And so Kim and I both finished like Saturday night, Sunday morning. And we were like, Rick! And then he also finished.
Yeah, I finished it quick. It was good. I really like what you did last time, Amanda. Before we even start, what is your feelings of these set of chapters?
I really loved this set of chapters. This is the third quarter of the book. And the third quarter is usually like the worst part of anything, because you like are over the halfway mark, but like you haven't gotten into the ending yet. Like the third quarter is the hardest part of a run if you're a runner. And this was my favorite set of chapters so far.
This was not my favorite set of chapters so far. However, still 5 stars for me. That's how much I have liked this book so far. So we're going. I thought this was great. Here we go. Let's bring us back to reality.
I was also going to say that I really liked the chapters. I agree with Amanda. We shouldn't be giving stars until the end of the book.
Thank you.
I will stop giving stars. But I did think this was great.
I will give these chapters 5 books out of 5 books then.
What does that even mean?
I'm not giving stars. You know?
We can't introduce a
or
third.
stripes or soups or
We're giving it stripes. We can't introduce a third rating system to this podcast. All right, so we read chapters 34 through 49.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say we're all pulling up our notes. Amanda is taking the lead because she's the best at it.
So we're going to dive in. So
rude.
Sorry. We pick up where we left off. The squad is on the island
of Mom. The island of Mom.
They're with the erudites.
Hedion?
Yeah, we're back to being divergent. So they're in Hedion. And we just found out that Zaden's mom, Talia, is there. So Zaden agrees to have dinner with his mother and learns he has 2 young stepbrothers. That's the summary for this whole chapter. But some stuff happens before that, right? Like, Zaden doesn't necessarily want to have dinner with his mom, doesn't want to see his mom. He's really mad. And Violet kind of talks him into, she's like charmed by Talia, and kind of talks him into
having dinner with them.
Yeah.
I wrote that, let's see. I wrote that Zaden, I think his mom says this, that Zaden would have sacrificed, that's not the correct word, but sacrificed Arisha for Violet, but Zaden's father would have never done that for her, which I thought was interesting, getting a little insight into Dad.
Yeah, and we do also get a little insight into like the world of contract marriages
in
both chapter 34 and 35, which the correspondence from Zaden's dad alluded to a few chapters earlier in like the quote, that like it's not about love, it's about a contract.
Right.
And so it sounds like Zaden's mom, Talia, was contracted to Zaden's dad for a certain amount of time, and when the contract ended, she returned to Hedion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I thought most of this chapter takes place out on a balcony.
Yes.
So Zaden's mom had attempted to come and bring them refreshments, snacks, appetizers, whatever. And so Violet brings it out and goes and finds Zaden, who is basically like put himself in the fetal position in a corner of this balcony, which actually felt really real to me. So I really liked that, where I was like, yeah, Zaden, sometimes we just have to like sit in the corner and cry. And that's very much what he was doing.
And aligned with that, as they're on the balcony, they're like looking at the dragons who are out there, and Scale is pacing back and forth because she's worried.
She's so upset that he's upset.
Worried about Zaden.
Yeah, but what are Taryn and Andarna doing? They're sunbathing.
I missed that.
It was
That's great.
so good.
In this chapter, Andarna does say, "Are we scheming? I do enjoy scheming."
And what are Trigger and Kat doing at this moment in time? They are walking hand in hand on the beach.
God, I love that. We're just going to have this relationship for so many more books.
It's going to be great.
Zaden has brothers.
All right, yeah, Zaden has 2 young stepbrothers, and the stepbrothers get...
Half-brothers.
Half-brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, not stepbrothers. We're using summaries from the Literary Lifestyle again.
Thank you, Literary Lifestyle.
Thank you, Literary Lifestyle.
Thanks.
So also at the end of this chapter, Violet gives Talia some dried aran mint, which, you know, we're like hearkening back to some of the Oretian favorites of Zaden's. So chapter 35 starts off with them at dinner. The quest squad is having dinner with Zaden's mom and the triumvirate, who are Ferris, Snaeri, and Roslyn. First,
And we hate them all.
We hate them all.
Yeah, I didn't like them at all.
I do just want you to know they bring plates out with like the covers over the plates, and Violet is like, please don't be ahead. Please don't be ahead.
Yeah.
Oof.
And it was cauliflower. And at this point, I wrote, would I, Amanda, rather eat cauliflower or a human head?
Oh, God.
And I
Questioned it, at least.
I'm not sure, guys. I hate cauliflower. If cauliflower has no haters, I'm dead. Cauliflower, squabble up.
Last night, I ate a cauliflower pizza.
Why? But like, why is cauliflower always being things that it's not? Doesn't need to be pizza. It doesn't need to be rice. It definitely doesn't need to be potatoes. I don't get it.
Not sponsored by cauliflower.
Sponsored by my hatred of cauliflower. I bought ad time just so I could talk about how much I hate cauliflower.
That's great. I love that.
So other things that happen at this conversation, Talia suggests a contract marriage between Zaden and Kat would be beneficial. And Zaden is like really funny in this scene.
I wrote, he tells them to get fucked. Like,
Yeah,
Which is one of Rebecca's favorite phrases, as we have said.
right.
So.
And he's like, yeah, and when you write that contract, make sure you write Sorengale, 2 R's.
Yeah, that was great.
Which I loved. We also find out in this chapter, here's my stream of consciousness notes. Are you ready? Would I, Amanda, rather eat cauliflower or a human head? Mom knew about the rebellion and left him alone. Sorengale, 2 R's. Sorensen? Question mark? Which shouts out to Sorensen as the most, like the largest video relay interpreting service for sign language. So that was funny. I wrote, and again, I only have one hand, so this probably isn't supposed to say this, but it says, wisdom people are boring, so disappoint.
I'll put that on a shirt.
And then I wrote, she knew he was coming. Mom sucks. Bad moms. Only scale is good mom.
And to give some context for this chapter also, so they're meeting with the triumvirate in hopes of potentially gaining an alliance with them. And the triumvirate is giving them some sort of test to determine if they are smart enough,
Worthy,
if there is
yeah.
enough wisdom within
Right.
them collectively.
So they were tested through battle for the island that was dedicated to the war god. Now they're tested through wisdom for the island that's dedicated to the wisdom god.
And so this whole conversation is really about them testing. One of my favorite parts about this chapter, and we've talked about this before too, is Eric, who
So good.
again just like comes out of left field with all these trivia facts to a bunch of the questions that are being asked, and everyone's just like, WTF, dude, where did this come from? How the heck did you learn all this, and how did you never tell anybody?
He also says, with the exception of her questionable choice in men, I've trusted Violet's wisdom since childhood, which I thought was, I like that Eric and Violet have been friends forever.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I think it's really sweet.
I wrote, similar to you, Amanda, Zaden's mom served him chocolate cake and he was coming. How and why? Garrick ate poison cake. He won't die. That's what I wrote.
It wasn't Garrick, it was
Garrick.
It was Garrick.
Garrick.
Yep.
Oh,
She
right.
took
Sorry.
Yeah.
the
Okay.
fork from Eric.
So Violet realizes the dessert is poison, but it's too late for Garrick, who collapses. And then chapter 36 picks up at that moment where they're trying to figure out what the poison is so they can find the antidote. Violet reveals that she's also poisoned them with the
Dun, dun,
arrowhead.
dun.
I wrote, oh no, it was a double poison.
I wrote poison, and then I wrote Riddick, which I guess in my head, that's why I was like, it wasn't Garrick, because I wrote Riddick. But so she's trying to bargain her antidote for theirs, and they're like, no, fuck you. And a battle ensues with the cook,
That was very funny.
and the cook stabs Riddick, and that's how chapter 36 ends, with Riddick getting stabbed, which is why I wrote Riddick.
I wrote that too. And then chapter 37, I'll let you take the lead, but right at the beginning of chapter 37, I wrote, Riddick got stabbed. Or not.
I wrote Riddick with a heart. So only Riddick's jacket was stabbed, and Riddick and Violet have a really sweet moment where she's like freaking out, and he's like, oh, Violet, I love you too.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
very sweet. So Violet figures out the poison and the antidote. She uses her father's book to help her save Garrick, and she bargains their free release and an alliance in exchange for her antidote to save the Triumvirate. I also wrote, Violet is so smart. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. First off, I really loved these couple of chapters. I thought it was really well done. And I also have a note here that says there has to be some wrestling term to describe this, what happened. So, Rick, I'm counting on you to come up.
Double poison.
The double poison.
Oh, the double poison?
Yeah.
Let's see.
That felt like some kind of heel turn and then another heel turn.
I mean, it's not a heel
I don't know.
turn, but it's a double swerve. It's a double swerve. That's what it is. It's a swerve is when you like change
Knew
a
it.
thing, but a double swerve is like back and forth.
Kapow.
Yep, exactly.
Um,
So I wrote Violet is blackmailing Ferris into an allyship because she sent Andarna to watch his kids.
Oh, yeah.
And she
Yep.
was like, yeah, you don't do what I do, they're toast. Which I thought was pretty cool. I wrote, damn, blackmailing with Andarna killing kids. I love it.
And she was just camouflage, sitting, hiding outside their window. And that just made me happy also.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to Riddick after he discovers that fortunately it was just his jacket was stabbed, and he actually gets like big mad about this because he was like, this is the only flight jacket I have, and I really hate sewing.
Yeah.
And then he says to Violet after this that he wants a Quest Squad patch after this. And my note also says, darn it, this is now what Rick is going to require from us.
We need
Quest Squad.
Patch, absolutely. So where do they go after this, Amanda? They fly away.
They fly to Zilhilna,
Yep.
which is the island for the god of luck. They feel like there's a lot of people there. The residents are all gathered around.
They get their magic back too.
Yeah,
a little
I'm Yeah, that's
So I'm feeling, again, with the color equals magic thing. There's more color here, there's more magic here. And so they have some magic, but not all the magic. At this point, Violet is like, I don't know, she has like an interaction with Zaden where she's like, am I too precious to get close to you, or am I the one that needs to know which shadow is yours? So like Zaden needs to kind of make up his mind about like how much of a danger he thinks he is to Violet. So they meet Calixta, who is the mistress of festivities, who's awaiting for their arrival. She's been culled by the king of Deverelli, and they need to play a game of cards to see the queen. I also want to shout out, there's an interpreter signing this for the crowd. So again, our queen, Rebecca, I think she knows sign language. I really do. She's got to know some deaf people. So they're playing a game of cards, and basically each card reveals a gift, and they have to accept the gift graciously and not complain regardless of what the gift is. So Mira gets wine, Marin gets 2 orange tunics, Dane gets
a slap.
AA Rick gets a broken mirror, Garrick gets a rusted steel bucket, Zaden gets an empty glass box, and Violet gets a broken compass. And they're like, good luck using that. And it's like, obviously this thing is going to be important.
That's exactly what I wrote. I wrote the same exact thing.
Yeah, I was like, these gifts are going to come back somehow.
Riddick gets a kiss.
Hell yeah.
Kat gets gold and a golden ruby necklace. Drake gets a kitten.
Yep.
Broccoli.
Not yet.
Oh my gosh. We can say.
A little orange kitten. And Traeger gets an arrow to the heart, which kills him
And
instantly.
I didn't. Oh, this one hurt.
I thought it was really obvious that somebody was going to die.
Yeah, I did too.
I didn't actually.
I was like, I mean, particularly when it started out with some of the gifts were actually good, I was like, oh no, this is just setting up the death that is coming.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to go to the death. I thought it was going to get to like whatever step before that was. I don't know, like very hurt. I didn't think we were going to get the death. And it was a really sad death.
Yeah, I thought
it
somebody
really
was going to
was.
die. Honestly, looking at this list though, I'm fine with it being Traeger.
Yeah, it's just the next chapter. I really like going a little bit into the next. Do you want to talk a little bit about this chapter before we go to the next one? Anybody? Go once.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
So the prelude, what do we call the like letters things?
Quote.
Yeah.
The quote at the beginning of the chapter. Actually, I sent a reel to both of you last week where Rebecca used the real word for that, and I don't remember what it is now.
I think it's an epigraph.
Epigraph. Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you. But it says in the epigraph that you must be willing to accept luck as your guide and chaos as your standard, and I thought to myself, this is literally where we work.
Yeah.
This is literally our jobs every day in this particular school.
So I'm actually glad that I took this note because it's going to come up later, and I've said this to these two in person. Zaden in this chapter is afraid he might hurt Violet, is what he says, and we'll come back to something I say later. But I'm actually glad that I wrote that here. So just going into chapter 39, I'll let you take it. But what I was really sad was like you said, they had to just accept this. Mm-hmm. So we're reading all about how devastated they are and literally can't do anything. Right. That's what made it really sad.
Yeah, and Violet has to, as the quest squad leader, has to come forward and say thank you. And Zaden at one point is like, I would do it, but this is your...
They know you're in command.
Yeah, like you have to do it. Kat is, of course, beside herself.
Yeah.
So that moves us into chapter 39, where Silarain, who is Traeger's griffin, dies with him. Because as we know,
was rough too.
We know that griffins die when their flyers die instead of dragons. It's the other way around. And the group agrees that they're going to go to a small island to burn their bodies.
I don't have much notes for that chapter. You kind of said it all. The only thing in addition to what I have to add is Zaden basically seems like he's really sure there's no cure for him. And at this point, I think I believe him. I don't know if they're going to get a cure for him. So,
as we know, I believe that the twist is that not all venom are bad.
Okay.
So I also don't believe he can be cured.
So back in book one. Was it book one? When Liam dies, that is book one,
That's
right?
book one.
Mm-hmm.
So someone in this room might have referred to me as a psychopath because I did not cry when Liam passed away in the book.
I also didn't cry.
Wow.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm heavily medicated.
That's fair. Feelings are hard. But I did actually get teary-eyed. Not about Traeger, but about the griffin.
Jesus Christ, you are a psychopath.
It was sad. They talked about it taking steps towards him, as it was.
No, the whole thing was really sad. I know.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
And then the rest of the chapter is mostly them talking about they were sleeping outside.
Yeah, they didn't.
It was this
and they just
conversation back and forth.
Didn't want to be on the island. They wanted to get off the island really quickly. So they go to a small nearby island, which is dedicated to the god of love, and they burn the bodies there because they didn't want to burn them on the island that killed them. They do win the army.
Yes.
Because they do this luck game correctly. So they do. Their mission is not a failure because they do win this army.
It's a big army too.
Yeah, and they don't
40K,
talk about that negotiation at all.
No.
But they're like, it happened. So that moves us into chapter 40, where they are on an island and they need to split into groups to fly around the smaller islands. They're not really on the map, so they need to split into groups to search for the Irids. And Violet breaks everybody into groups. We got a very important character introduction.
New character. Best character so far.
Broccoli.
Who is it, Kim? Oh, yeah. We get Broccoli the kitten.
Broccoli the kitten is here because...
No one really wants Broccoli, but it's good for you.
We stand Broccoli, and we've already bought...
We want Broccoli.
Yeah. We've got our Broccoli shirts.
Right now.
They're ordered.
Yeah, Broccoli shirts will be here on Friday.
We're very hyped.
If we like them, then we'll shout out the creator. So also, Violet doesn't pair herself with Zaden. She pairs Garrick with Zaden. She pairs herself with Riddick. And two very cute things happen here.
Oh, say it for me. Go ahead.
Garrick calls Zaden Honey Bear.
He does. I wrote that too.
Which was so precious. And Riddick and his dragon are in an ongoing prank war.
Yeah.
Yes. We're getting a little bit of insight both in this chapter and then later we get it with Sawyer into the relationships other riders have with their dragons, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, he put itching powder into Atrum's scales. It was great.
And his dragon is splashing
water.
him. It's really, which is that's who Riddick's dragon should be, right? So it's again speaks to the importance of the dragon rider bond and how the dragon chooses the rider. This dragon obviously knew who Riddick was.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And I'll just say again, please don't die.
Oh God, please don't die.
I love Riddick so much in this book.
At the end of the chapter, though, something important happens.
Riddick stays with Violet. And they stay behind while the fire burns, and in comes a shimmering sky blue dragon. 6 dragons of varying tones appear on the beach. These are Irid Feathertail dragons, and a dragon says hello to her even though they aren't bonded. And that's how chapter 40 ends.
I was very taken aback, honestly. I really thought Andarna was going to be the only Irid. I really did. I thought she was going to be like the last of her kind type of thing, situation. That's where I thought it was going. I actually never thought they would find them.
I knew they'd find them, but I didn't think that the Irids were going to like come to them, which is what has happened.
Well, thankfully they're rational and understanding.
Oh my God.
So, right?
Dude. So in chapter 41, Andarna's scales change color. The dragons are all feather tails and they're interested in talking to her. Turns out Andarna's family of origin sucks.
Oh man, they're not
good.
fun. They're not fun. They're
No.
not. I don't know if they're not good, but they're not fun.
Right. So they tell us that Andarna was left in the Vale as the Criterion. And so her role was to hatch, to basically let the Irid Den know whether or not humans had figured out how to not kill each other.
Right.
And they, of course, haven't. And so they're like, Andarna, you haven't failed. Violet has failed because she's using your power as an instrument of warfare. And Andarna wasn't supposed to develop for this reason. Their breed is meant for peace. 2 other little... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, like, I consider them very much hypocrites because they're like, they used you, but they used Andarna as a test. Like,
That's a great point.
Yeah,
you know, like...
that's an excellent point.
So, yeah, you had 2 things to add, you said?
Yeah, something that happens in this chapter, so it's Riddick and Violet on the beach, and they don't want to speak because they know the dragons will hear them, so they're signing back and forth to each
I
other,
thought that was cool.
which I thought was really cool. That happens when other people show up too, because we do that. Rick and I do that all the time.
Yeah, they do.
So I loved
And the whole
that.
reason I am going to take ASL classes this summer.
Yes.
So that I can be part
She
of the
needs
group.
to be part of the group. And then also in this chapter, the Irids like allude to Violet's second signet,
Yep.
and they are like, well, you know, the power that you've like, we won't even speak of the power that you're giving her. And it's like, what is the power that you're giving her?
So
You said everything I needed to say, so Kim, go ahead.
yeah, when this chapter starts and they realize that the Irids are here, Riddick had been off with his dragon and comes back around the corner and sees the 6 Irids that are sitting in front of Violet and Andarna at this point. And he says, "Are we happy? Are we scared?" And it also just felt like such a great Riddick moment where it's like, yeah, that's exactly what this dude would say. Much of this chapter is also Andarna getting to tell the Irids her story. And so the Irids all like sit down and like curl up with their tails around them while
cute,
Andarna stands up and like does her story.
And I think Riddick says, is it story time?
Yeah, it's story time. So there is a Instagram creator that pops up on my feed all the time that has this ongoing cartoon series about Andarna story time. And I thought it was just like cute and silly. And now I understand where it came from because it literally was Andarna story time.
I love that.
All right, Amanda, chapter 42.
All right, so in chapter 42, Garrick and Zaden return, and the dragons continue to say that they're concerned, like Andarna and Violet are like, you have to help us. We are fighting for peace. And they're like, you're not concerned with peace, you're concerned with victory.
Right.
And Andarna's like, no, peace requires one of you to power the Orishan Wardstone. We need an Irid to power it. And the dragons are like, nah.
Yeah. I call them self-sanctimonious assholes.
Yeah. And one of the dragons say, perhaps the corrupted ones should devour the land in its entirety. Only when they're faced with starvation will they confront the evil they've become. Either they'll die off and the land will regenerate, or they'll confront the abominations they've become and change. Again, I do not believe that venin are inherently bad. We also find out they'd say there's no cure for venin because they're not trading part of their soul. Their part of their soul is dying. And so, yeah, I again think Venom are not inherently bad.
Well,
By
they
themselves.
told Andarna, they said to my girl, that she's irid in scale and name only.
Oh, God, my
Ugh.
heart. I cried. I didn't cry.
I
screamed.
couldn't, like, ugh.
I also wrote at this point, he calls her violence, exclamation point, which I think is just like my own internal monologue of being like, she's fighting for peace, but Zaden does call her violence.
Yes.
And so
Very
I
true.
do think that there's like the theme of like fighting for peace is kind of a crazy concept when you think about it.
But in go ahead, Kim.
So the last part of this, the conversation that the Irids are having with Andarna, there were 3 out of the 6 that stayed behind, who in essence were the ones who were like determining whether Andarna was going to be allowed to come into their actual home and join the den or not. And I do think it's important to note that one of the 3 of them was more undecided than the
Yes.
other 2,
Leofen.
and so the door is still open here, and
I think-
we're going to see them again.
I think that's Andarna's bio dad. That's my theory.
Okay.
But she doesn't need her bio dad.
Nope.
I don't think it's her bio
She's got
dad.
Taryn. She's got
Yeah.
adopted
Her
dad.
adopted parents are great. Scale is the only good mom in the whole book. Rhiannon's mom might be fine. I don't know.
I don't think it's her bio dad. Just I don't know anything about dragon age, but she's took 600 years to hatch. So I don't know how long a dragon lives.
Yeah, her parents might be dead.
But it's probably from her den, maybe.
Yeah, they're related. That's my theory.
But when they're leaving, something happens with like some power happens. I don't remember. But Zaden's eyes turn red. The dragons realize he's Venom.
Oh yeah, the dragons can see it, and they like tell him he's an abomination.
Big mad.
He's
And
out.
that's when Riddick
Also finds
learns
out.
that Zaden is Venom, and that's kind of the whole story of chapter 43 is Violet explaining. So Violet and Riddick like run off into the woods to explain what's going on, and so she's explaining Zaden's Venom stage. She reminds him that Zaden saved them by killing the Dark Wielder's sage, which gave her mom time to imbue the Ward Stone. Riddick seeks more reassurance, and basically yells at her and says like. He's like, I don't trust that you're ever going to know where the line is.
I need a line.
Tell me where the line is and I'll step in for you. And so Violet says if Zaden ever hurts her, she'll know that he's not himself anymore.
And I want to go back to what I said earlier in this conversation where Zaden is afraid he's going to hurt her.
Yeah.
And I really think that he is going to pass that line either unintentionally or intentionally. As in, like, he wants to get them away. He will hurt her, so Riddick has no choice but to, like, move them away or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is going to happen.
So Riddick has a good little monologue here where he yells at Violet for keeping shit to herself.
Yeah.
And he says, stop keeping shit to yourself. I don't want to have this fight again. The 4 of us are stronger together than we are apart. Don't fuck with that, even for Riorson. If you're too afraid to tell Ree, Sawyer, or me about something you're doing because you know we're going to lose our shit, then either you shouldn't be doing it or you deserve to have shit lost on you. Which I loved.
Yep.
I wrote Riddick is in full boss mode now.
Yeah, which is like super valid. He's like, I'm going to support you, but like either you shouldn't, if you're afraid to tell me something, either you shouldn't be doing that thing or you deserve for me to yell at you. So Riddick tells Violet she has to tell Sawyer, Rhiannon, and Jacinia in exchange for him keeping the secret.
Yeah, my one note on this chapter was Heart Riddick.
Yeah, Riddick is
Just like,
he's the hero
such
of
a
this.
well-rounded,
yeah.
good egg. Round egg.
And then Riddick was a little worried that Zaden might think that they were hooking up.
Oh yeah.
And then do you know how Zaden knew they didn't?
Go ahead.
Well,
Because the lightning strike wasn't that big.
I loved that.
That was so good. Then they get back to Basgiath, and I wrote, they're finally back. Like, they're finally back at Basgiath. And I wrote, it actually felt like it's been a long time. Like, I felt like I was on an actual quest with them.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like a good period of time
Yeah,
we were
it's a good
away.
point.
And I wrote, they're going to be court-martialed? Why? I don't remember that.
Well, because they were
Because they-
supposed to like return after each island and
okay.
like send a missive, but they didn't do that.
And then they learn that, okay, yeah, Amanda, yeah, that's what I say, so go ahead.
So Violet gets a letter from Theophany that Theophany is like, hey boo, I saw you.
Yeah.
And they also learn that Seneva fell to Dark Wielders and Queen Mariah, who is the queen of Poromiel, is dead. So now Takaris is next in line. So now Takaris is
King Takaris.
king of Poromiel. Poor oatmeal.
Poor
Or
oatmeal.
oatmeal.
All right, so chapter 44, the quest squad is not punished because the king, not king of poor oatmeal, King Tory, is so happy to have Eric back. Eric back, that he's like not gonna fight them. So at Battle Brief, they learn that the Dark Wielders have done so much damage in the time they've been gone. They debate where to place the 40,000 troops that they got in Zahilna. Professor Devers shares that Dark Wielders fell from the sky in Seneva and started a fire. The Venin stole their alloy-hilted daggers, which had just been shipped there. It's believed that there are traitors in their ranks who conveyed this information. Rick, do you want to talk a little bit about traitors?
Yeah, I told you both this. Even before that, going back to the Venin, right? I really liked that they specifically said that 12 Venin and 12 Wyvern killed 25,000 people. To me, that just shows how scared we need to be of them.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Speaks, I mean, you said that at the end of book 1,
Yeah.
where you were like, oh, 4 Venin, it's going to be fine. And then it was like, oh, shit.
Right. So I really like that. I really think that Halden is the traitor. I really do. I think Halden might be leaking information to in with them so he can become full king. Because that's sort of all he's wanted this whole time. Go ahead.
I still have been debating about Violet's second signet and if Theophany is like her evil double here.
I have an idea of that too.
And
I'm shaking my head. I don't want that to be the case.
But I wonder, and I know, Rick, we have similar but slightly different ideas of what the second signet could be. I think that Theophany is able to like push into people's heads. And so I wonder if she's able to, has been doing that, which is how she's getting all of this information. So it's not necessarily a traitor, but it is the fact that Theophany is like super intrinsic.
And this is also in Battle Brief, they explain that the Venin in this attack flew in a thundercloud.
Yeah.
Right.
And so Violet realizes that Theophany needs to be with them as a lightning wielder and as a maven.
Yeah.
And Violet can kill them with lightning if she isn't seen. But that's Battle Brief. I think the other like really important thing that happens in chapter 44 is they're talking about how Sawyer's gonna like get his accommodations, so that he can be
a rider.
Which again, I said this in the last episode or 2 episodes ago, I don't remember which one. I have felt very strongly this whole time I would be really disappointed in Rebecca, because I feel like she's been a good disability advocate, that I would be really disappointed in Rebecca if we didn't
Get Sawyer a leg.
Get Sawyer a leg.
And a little harness or something.
Yeah, so...
And back in the saddle.
And back in the saddle. So that's chapter 44. So in chapter 45, they're practicing battle mount maneuvers, dismounting in a running landing, wielding, and then taking to the sky. It's Zaden's birthday.
Happy birthday, Zaden.
Happy birthday, Zaden. And Violet gives him a very thoughtful gift. Again, with the thoughtful gifts, he has given her a thoughtful gift, and now she's giving him a thoughtful gift. It's a black onyx metal wrist cuff with a piece of the turret from Rierson House.
Yes.
What?
I actually felt very meh about that.
Oh, I loved it. That's his happy place.
Oh, I didn't have anything to say about that. For the chapter notes, I wrote, they trained a lot. I was bored.
Okay, well,
But
Violet
it was
also...
good training, though.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I wrote, go ahead.
Violet also has a dream.
Yeah, I have that. It's my first note.
Yeah, so Violet has a dream in this chapter, and it's at this point that I realize she hasn't had a dream in a while, and it's, I think, because they've been off continent. So I think that I think that speaks to her dreams being related somehow to her second signet or to her power, because the dreams are only happening when she has access to magic.
I am 100% confident Violet is some sort of dream person. She's an intrinsic. Confident. Like, put it in the books.
I also have a question. So intrinsics can like read minds,
Yeah.
but they can also read intentions sometimes.
It's something with
kind
it's
of
like a mind
intrinsic.
power.
But like being able to see somebody's memories or predict the outcome of a battle, those aren't intrinsics.
Well, don't forget that the winners of the battles changed the rules, so they might have changed that.
Yeah.
And
I
those
guess-
were considered confidential.
Yeah. So I guess I just
So-
I wonder like what is and isn't an intrinsic.
So the reason why I'm positive of this is because I quoted this. So she's having a dream about the sage, and she said, and in it, the sage says, "I'll allow you to help her this time. Just submit. Come to me, accept where you belong, and you'll find freedom like no other." It's not Violet's dream, it's Zaden's dream. Violet has put herself into Zaden's dream. That's what she does. She goes into other people's dreams. I'm guaranteed. Lock it in. Lock of the week. Lock of the week.
Or she's just able to push into people's heads, and it's first sort of coming out while she's asleep because she doesn't know how to control it. And so when you're asleep,
Lock of the week.
Yeah, I think you guys are saying the same thing. Wait, but you didn't like the gift?
I literally wrote, I get it, but meh.
I wrote, it's Zaden's birthday. The wards are weakening.
Okay, yeah, the wards are weakening. 2 Wyvern came through the wards at Orisha, so the wards are failing. Okay, so in chapter 46, Andarna is pissed off.
Yeah, she's
so
not
deep
happy.
in her feels
Yeah.
right
She's
now.
like really sulking. She's
Baby girl.
hiding. She doesn't want anything to do with anybody. So she's hardcore hiding. There's debate about whether or not to open the borders to Poor Oatmeal's citizens who are willing to climb that difficult pass. And that's what Zaden wants. And Halden is like, fuck you. And threatens to take his troops to Tyrrendor. I wrote that there's been a lot of foreshadowing about Tyrrendor seceding from, I almost just said Prithian. What's it called?
Poor Oatmeal.
No.
Navarra?
I think that they're alluding to Tyrrendor seceding eventually. Zaden's eyes are still amber. Wyvern have been trying to fly into Orisha.
They're making it further and further.
They are. And Lynx, who is a 4th wing cadet, starts shaking and he manifests shadows. Shadow wielding is meant to be a once-in-a-generation signet. So Zaden's not the only shadow wielder anymore. Lynx is meant to be his balance.
Yeah.
So the magic finds a way to balance. They've balanced out Zaden being Venom, I guess.
Interesting. So this thought is coming to me right now. If that's the case, is Violet Theophany's balance?
Right.
You know, like
The dark and the light doubles here. Yes.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. I literally just thought about that.
Oh, and lightning
Yeah.
is the opposite of light. Is the opposite of shadow.
Ah, look at that. This is happening real time, guys.
Real time. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I also I don't know. I just think the rules are more malleable than that. Like, okay, it's a once in a generation signet, but like no one's ever had 2 dragons before.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I'm like, okay, fine. So there's 2 of them now. Like, I don't know. I'm not worried about that.
I wrote, Zaden is needed in Llewellyn. Is Llewellyn a place or a person?
Llewellyn is a place, and the Earl of Llewellyn.
Sure.
He was a duke, but now he's the Earl of Llewellyn. Is
Name's all Llewellyn.
they just call him Llewellyn?
I can't, guys.
It's like if we just called you Jersey.
Yeah, I like that.
No, I hate it.
Big Jers right
Never,
here.
nope, never saying that again.
So Zaden's been spending a lot of time in Tyrrendor, not necessarily in Orisha, sometimes in Llewellyn, sometimes in other places. And so he resigns. What?
I'm sorry, I have a Riddick joke. I just
Okay.
feel Riddick this whole time because every time that I read that, I always think Llewellyn is the guy. So every time I hear that Zaden is spending time in Llewellyn,
No.
I did it by myself while reading. I'm sorry. Continue.
That's of the things that Rick has said that's disturbed me today. That's somehow number 3 on the list.
He's really proud of himself also.
Number
for
2
that.
is when he called us a book tease
Yeah, they're book
because
teas.
we
Yeah,
said
at,
we were gonna.
at 7 a.m.
Yeah, I was like, I hate that. And number 1 is when he sent us a book to read.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
Okay,
Believe
so
it.
he sent it and said, I mean, it's less than 300 pages. The book is called Married to the Alien Cowboy. It's by an author named Ursa Dax. And the first review on Goodreads, 4 stars. Removing a star for the jump scare tentacle dick. This will be my entire review. You're welcome.
It was meant as a joke. I was looking at one of the other books and
Nope.
it popped in the bottom. I was like, that's not a real book.
No,
But
he
did you look at the
absolutely-
reviews?
I didn't look at the reviews.
He would have let us get into it.
Because have
told
you
me
ever
what
seen the
happened.
book like Ice Barbarians from the Planet something? You have.
I have.
Yeah, so that's where I thought of that. It's just these ridiculous books. Anywho,
My concern wasn't with the title or even the cover. I was fine with that.
I didn't read the
I'm
reviews. It
not
was-
reading tentacle porn.
neither am I. I didn't know it was tentacle
All
porn.
right, so
he's
number
totally gonna
1
read it.
offensive thing today, tentacle porn. Number 2 offensive thing today, book tease. Number 3 offensive thing today, in Llewellyn. Okay.
Back to Llewellyn, and speaking of that, the end of this chapter, Zaden is resigning, and Violet is like super upset, and he's like, I'm leaving, I'm going back to Tyrandor. And Llewellyn is there in the hallway and starts to have this conversation with Violet about how, like, if she's going to be with Zaden, then she has to realize that she's always going to have to put Tyrandor first, ahead of both Zaden and then of herself. And like, this conversation is totally misguided because, like, Llewellyn has no idea what he's talking about and why they were fighting. And then also, too, I wrote, such a mansplainer.
Such a mansplainer.
I kind of was okay with Llewellyn before, and now I'm like, you're kind of a dick.
Yeah. No one ever liked Llewellyn, the person or the place.
All
Take us home, man. We really only have one chapter left.
We got three.
Not really.
All right, so chapter 47 is about Sawyer getting Violet's help mounting his dragon, whose name is Sleeshug, which means chip or slice. Get it? Because his leg got sliced off?
Oh. It got chomped off, actually.
So Sawyer has fashioned some kind of
boot
thing for his prosthetic leg so he can climb up the scales. In this chapter, his dragon bares his teeth. Mm-hmm. And in response, Sawyer bares his teeth back.
Oh, yeah.
Also in this chapter, Sawyer is yelling at his dragon and is like, I will not have you, like, dishonor yourself by lowering yourself for me. And Violet asks Taryn, like, is that how you feel whenever you do that for me? And Taryn recites his whole
life story,
lineage. And she's like, okay, but like, and he's like, I chose you.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm loving hearing the different relationships that dragons have with their riders. So Sawyer is able to get on his dragon does lower just a little bit so that he can get on. We are here for accommodating dragons. The quest squad flies to Orisha, including Sawyer and Rhiannon, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so they're the whole gang's back together. And there, Brennan tells Violet that he is struggling to mend Zaden, that he is trying to mend Zaden. Brennan is aware that Zaden is turning venom, and that he thinks he's further along than Jack was. Mm-hmm. At some point in some chapter, a few chapters ago, Zaden makes it clear that he's like counting days.
Yes.
And there's like a number he's trying to hit. He tells us that number in chapter 48.
My favorite scene in this chapter, though, is when Sawyer has just gotten up on Slissig and all of the other members of Quest Squad are starting to come out, and so they can get ready to fly off. And Riddick comes out, and his first reaction was, Sawyer, look at you! And Slissig then snaps at him. And Riddick says, look at you from a distance.
I loved that.
And also Riddick then goes around and hugs literally every single other person on the field.
Yeah.
And
including Kat, who's not here for it.
Yeah.
No, I loved that. I also, it's interesting. Rhiannon is their squad leader, and they really want to make her proud.
Yeah.
And so Sawyer had asked Violet to be the one to be out there to support him, not necessarily because she can catch him if he falls, but because he's the only one that she's the only one that he felt comfortable kind of making an ass of himself in front of. He really didn't want to make an ass of himself in front of Rhiannon.
Yeah.
Which I think is, I love this little quad.
And the last thing at the end, I don't know if they're actually going to do this, but I wrote it, that they want to try to mend the spot at Basgayeth where Zaden...
I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah.
Where Zaden channeled. Maybe that'll help him. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that.
So in chapter 48...
No, I got you, girl. Chapter 48, a lot of foreplay. Chapter 49...
That's what I was looking for.
That's what happens. Go ahead. I dare you to tell me anything else that happens in those chapters.
Okay, but I liked these chapters. I thought this was good soup.
It was... Oh, my God. Yeah, it was good soup. It was great soup because we had the foreplay chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was also like really deep, intense conversation.
Yeah, you have real notes.
How do you have notes? Foreplay. A chapter of foreplay.
I didn't write anything.
Right.
I said they talk while deep in foreplay about what Violet will do if Zaden loses control by being with her. And then I said there are daggers and serums, and a whole lot of touching.
Yeah, and like
it's what my notes
okay.
said.
So the reason this is such good soup, and the reason there's a whole chapter of foreplay, is because Zaden is like trying to remain in control, and so basically like Violet has to relinquish control so that Zaden can maintain his cool, basically.
What's funny about the soup is I was talking with Annie about it, And I was like, and she was
Talking to your boss about the soup.
I was.
We love.
And I was like, the soup was good. She's like, yeah, it was good soup. I was like, but what made the soup good for me is like I was waiting for the end to see if he channeled at all.
And he doesn't.
And he doesn't.
He's like looking around when it's done.
I was very like, this soup is great. Is like I was like, what's gonna happen?
And he's like, no handprints, not even a
Right.
fingerprint. Yeah, it's just good soup.
Yeah.
The thing to note about chapter 49 is Rebecca loves a chair.
Yeah.
Girl.
This is the third chair that we have had.
And in the beginning of this book, I didn't mention it, but she referenced the throne scene.
Yeah.
In the very beginning of the book.
We talked about it.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the stupid finger trick.
We talked about the finger trick.
All right, we're gonna get to the last quarter of this book.
Yeah.
What do we think is gonna happen? What do we think is going to happen?
Somebody's got to die, man.
Better not be Riddick.
I don't think anyone's dying in this book. I think we had our death.
Then what's our twist?
I think they go to the Venom willingly. Like, I think Zaden...
Oh, she like goes to...
Zaden is like, I'm going to go because I'm a danger to you and others, and I'm going to try to figure this out. And then she's like, well, shit, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to go find Theophany, who said you were going to come to me at some point.
Yeah, okay, I'm sold.
Yeah, they're gonna find Theophany at some point because of the dream. I don't think someone's gonna die. I think someone's gonna be the snitch, a rat.
Okay,
I don't know
the twist.
That's true.
I don't know who it is. You had mentioned like I said Halden.
Yeah, so I look, I took a shot in the dark, but I think Halden would be too easy because he's already bad. So I was like, it has to be somebody that's going to hurt more. So I threw out Bodhi.
And then I was like, maybe Brennan. I don't know.
I feel like we've already had our twist about Brennan, though.
Maybe, I don't know.
And the Sorrengails period. I don't think we're going to lose another of Violet's family.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least not in back-to-back books.
I wrote. I just had a couple of questions like, what happens to Scale if Zaden turns?
Seagull.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah, like I don't know what's gonna happen. I think
And their whole little dragon family is Scale and Terran and Antenna.
Right. I think it's gonna be Star Wars. Like I think Zaden's gonna turn like to Vader, but eventually at the end come back, sort of thing.
I don't. I think he's gonna stop and stay where he is.
I remember saying this in book 1. I think I mentioned to the both of you. But in book 1, I questioned: is someone's signet going to be resurrection? Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that's gonna, maybe not in this book, but still somewhere come back.
Who's coming back?
I think it's a step too far.
I don't know. They've mentioned it. If they've mentioned
if you
it,
can control death, then you're a god or whatever.
Yeah.
right? So like, if they've mentioned it, I think it's in play.
Could see our boy Liam again.
Right. Right.
What's Eric's signet gonna be?
Yeah, that's true.
Is he gonna explode?
No, he's not gonna explode.
No, because he's got to be king. That's
No,
how this.
he's
It ends with him
going to
being
be
king.
super powerful.
Um,
So I don't know what it is.
I love him.
But it's going to be...
I love
yeah.
everybody.
my other thing was Theophany, and I've said that is she Violet from another universe? Like, there's too many parallels, and I don't think I like that. But like, they did. I'm also convinced that they brought Violet to the island and sacrificed her. I don't remember what the word is.
Oh, they like dedicated
Dedicated.
her.
I'm convinced that they dedicated her. I really am. And I don't know if part of the dedication, because she was sick. That's what they said. Like, was part of the dedication like removing the sick part of her, and is that Theophany? They've got the same signet. They are just too similar. Like, I need to know what that is. So
I think they share a family lineage, and I think they are the dark and the light version of each other. And yeah.
I really hate them being the same person.
Yeah.
That's really upsets me.
I just don't know. I don't know how else to explain the fact that they have the same signet, the same color hair, and possibly the same second signet. It just, like, I don't know how else to.
What if
To
they're
explain it.
twins?
That's interesting.
Because Violet was sick when she was a baby. Maybe there was two of them, and
Yeah, that would be all right. That would be more logical. Amanda hates everything.
I don't know.
What do you think is going to happen, Amanda?
I don't know. I'm subscribing to your theories. Everything that I think is going to happen isn't going to happen in this book.
Okay. All right. What's
All
our
right.
homework, Amanda?
Our homework is to finish the book. So we're going to read chapters 50 through, I believe it's 66 chapters in this book, but 50 through the end.
50 through the end. To the end. Think everything inside. It's all fell apart.
In the
terrible.
end.
What it meant to me will eventually
in the end.
be a memory.
No.
All right.
All right,
Doesn't
so that's
really matter.
What else are we reading, guys? I know it's only been a couple days.
I have now read nothing except this book. That's all I've read. I haven't read
I
anything
have
about this book.
started Casey McQuiston's The Pairing. So my first book in honor of Pride Month, and this has all the things that I possibly want in a romance book, in that it is bisexual exes that have accidentally signed up for the same food and wine tour in Europe.
I'm
Here
on
for it.
board. I finished Crazy Rich Asians. It was fine. I don't know.
Were they crazy?
Yeah, no, they were rich. Yeah, some of them are crazy. I don't know. I just like, I'd seen the movie, and the book reads like it wants to be a movie. It's just like very descriptive. There's not really a lot of character development, but it was pretty and like fun to read. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. Like, it's fine. It's just like not, I don't know. I don't think I'll read the rest of them. And then I started a book called I Did Something Bad. Catching up on my AAPI Heritage Month reads before I start my Pride reads. So I'll start my Pride Month reads probably the end of this week.
All right. There it is, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode.
If you have thoughts about what we should read next.
Okay, yeah, I'm really bad at this, but it's fine. Let's try this. If you have thoughts on what we'd like to read next, what I'm going to do right meow after we get off this podcast is I'm going to go to the email and change the forwarding so I can always see it. If you have thoughts of what we would like to read next or anything about this book, you can email us at romantasy-roundtable@gmail.com.
Or you can, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment on the YouTube video, or if you're Cindy, you can just text me.
Me too. Text me, Cindy. Tell me what's up with this book.
I love you, Cindy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.